Chinese decision to employ the military force to suppress unarmed student demonstrators in Tiananmen Square in June 1989. The second crisis is that resulted when the U.S., during the war in Kosovo, U.S. bombers accidentally attacked the Chinese embassy in Belgrade in May 1999. And the third one is that which occurred in April 2001 when an American surveillance plane flying near China had a collision with a Chinese fighter. And these crises, I think, are important for our understanding of the national security decision-making processes for perhaps three reasons. One, managing relations with China is obviously very important. If you had to argue what some of the things any good U.S. national security system had to do, having good relations with China, would probably, or at least being able to manage relations with China, is probably going to be one of those. Second, it's interesting from a risk point of view because you're looking at organization patterns of U.S. behavior, organizational behavior within the U.S. government under very acute time pressures. And in a way, it complements some of the other cases in the volume, which look over longer periods of time, such as the war in Iraq and then the aftermath, or the war in Afghanistan, Vietnam, even Somalia or former Yugoslavia. So you've got it helps balance out the case volume by looking at a shorter range issue. In addition, it's interesting that each of the three crises are a bit different, so they help expand our knowledge a bit more. It allows for a somewhat richer assessment and an investigation of a single crisis or cause. They all involve a large number of actors: Congress, executive branch agencies, NGOs, foreign governments, etc. In addition, the lengthy time period means it's going to cover all three distinct administrations, and they all had distinct views about China, and they employed distinct processes to manage relations with China. To give you the main conclusion, I think there are 6 key points I would like you to consider as you listen to the presentation and review the case later. First, even those presidents who came into office with well-integrated strategies, found it very hard to implement them within the U.S. national security framework. Second, absent close presidential attention, you would often have a phenomenon of the various U.S. agencies, executive branch agencies, some of their own foreign policies towards China, which led to incoherence when they tended to clash, as they often would. Third, the U.S. national security system is probably going to be true for many countries. It's difficult to manage these kinds of crises. You can't, especially within the standard operating procedures. You often have to resort to ad hoc processes, and these ad hoc integration processes have problems all their own. But there are ways I think you could overcome some of these problems. Fourth, and this is something we found in some of the other cases as well, the U.S. national security system has problems when a crisis or a major decision has to be made during that vulnerable process of transition, when it's between political parties, but often when it's the same political party. That is, when in one presidential administration, there's been a new one that's been elected, the president's been elected in November, but the current old one is still in office, and they have to basically hand off positions. And Jim had encountered this firsthand when he was actually in government during one of these transitions. And the problem, of course, is you don't have all the senior people appointed. It takes a while to get to the Senate. You're developing your processes for making and making decisions, and it just creates a lot of problems. Fifth, since Tiananmen, since the first crisis we talked about in 1989, there's been a series, a long-standing tension between the executive branch and Congress about U.S.-China relations, which wasn't before, and it's been making our relations with China difficult, being a formulated coherent strategy. And this we've also found in some of the other cases. And finally, I have a somewhat looser measurement of how I'm assessing success or failure with respect to China. Because in a way, when you're looking at crisis, what you're really hoping to do is just avoid the worst possible outcome. And in the case of China, there's a real bad outcome you could have, which would be a thermonuclear war between the two countries. So in a way, we've met that minimal